Welcome back to the channel. Boy, am I excited for this one. Today, we've got something special today. We're gonna be shooting 10% ballistics gel with one of my favorite cartridges, the 340 Weatherby Magnum. We're gonna see what the 250 grain Accubond does to a ballistic gel. Stay tuned. All right, guys, it's no secret. There's a lot of ballistic gels videos out there with all sorts of cartridges and bullets. A lot of guys are doing it and they do a great job. But one thing I've basically almost have never seen is what does a normal Accubond do to a ballistics gel? That's what we're gonna find out. And as you can see, I only have one ballistics gel. Yeah, guys, I kind of went cheap. These things are not cheap, by the way. Really, this video is about what can the Accubond do for a temporary wound cavity. You know, if an Accubond can't penetrate 16 inches of 10% ballistics gel, it's an absolute failure. So I'm not really worried about the penetration. There's tons of videos about penetration, and that's fine. That's what we're not focusing on today, though. Let's talk about the bullet. Now, the Accubond is very popular. It has a reputation as a really good big game bullet. But since it's popular, there's all sorts of wild stories of how the Accubond performs on game. I've heard from it couldn't even penetrate moose skin and it blew up like a varmint bullet to it just pencils through everything. Now, my personal experience, I shot an elk with a 200 grain Accubond out of a 300 Weatherby Magnum from 50 yards away. The elk died just about instantly, so it was a DRT, one shot. But the exit hole was kind of small. And so you're kind of thinking, maybe did it pencil through? Well, that's what we really want to find out today. What kind of damage does it do inside? All right, before I do the shot and I show you the rifle that the 340 Weatherby is chambered in, you guys are going to want to see that. Just want to let you know, this is going to be from 50 yards away. Yeah, 340 Weatherby is in the Mark V Deluxe. Okay, going down to the target, that thing went flying. And as you saw in the chronograph, it's going just about 2,900 feet per second, which is a little slower than I thought it'd be going. But I think we're gonna see some devastating wound cavity, hopefully. Pro tip for you guys that are wanting to do this, maybe put a tarp down, don't let it hit the ground, because this looks awful now with all the little rocks all over it. But looking from the top, this is from the top, that's pretty darn impressive. That's a little over 2 inches wide, okay? So that's really good. Now the question is, what about here? And again, we're 2 inches, maybe a little more on that one. So pretty darn impressive. Again, this isn't a cup and core bullet, so it's not going to have as good of expansion as a cup and core, but there's, let me show you, about a 12 inch, okay? So it starts there, and yeah, it ends around 12 inches. So really impressive. Accubond did pretty darn good. Okay, this is wound cavity up and down. And I'm sorry, guys, it's really tough to see. I'll do this when I get home too, but it is actually just a hair over 2 inches, probably 2 1/4 wide, or up and down. Pretty good. Okay, I'm back from the range. I'm trying to clean this off, and it just still looks murky, I would say. I'm looking from the top down, okay? Here is what the wound cavity looks like from the side. It's tough to see. So what I think it helps the most is actually when I'm running water over it, it looks the clearest. So let me do that. Okay, as you can see, it does look better when you're running water over it. And as I said, my measurements were right from the beginning. This is 3 inches wide, so not too shabby. And then when we look at how tall it is, this is actually, I remeasured 2.5 inches tall, and it's 2.5 inches tall here. So I would say that it actually did pretty darn well. Yeah, you could get better with a cup and core, as I said previously, but I'm actually kind of impressed. And I'm looking at it again. We do have some fragmenting. There's a piece. There's another piece. So, you know, it is a cup and core still. It's just bonded. But the wound cavity, 12 to 13 inches long. If you're wondering, man, you know, the Accubond just pencils through. Well, that's because the wound cavity is roughly 12, 13 inches, and then it just goes smaller. So it kind of makes sense, unless you hit bone, why you would have a small exit hole. Otherwise, I think it did pretty well. All right, I just want to break this down one more time for you, just kind of give you an idea of how this really did. As a reminder, the bullet was going out of the muzzle at 28.98 feet per second, and at 50 yards at my elevation, it hit that gel block at 28.32 feet per second. I'm a little disappointed that it was only going 28.98. The last time I shot this load, it was going well over 29.60. So, not sure what's going on there. Do I think it would have made a huge difference on the wound cavity if it was going 75 feet per second faster? Probably not. Probably would have been a little bigger, but not by much. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the Accubond did. Okay, looking from the side, and you're seeing the wound cavity from up and down, which most people measure, and that's kind of the measure of success. At the biggest wound cavity part, it measured 2.5 inches, which for a bonded bullet is pretty darn good. I would say this was a success. Again, you could probably get a bigger wound cavity with a cup and core bullet, but for bonded, this is pretty large. If you guys aren't familiar with the Big Hunting blog channel, you should definitely go check it out. He's been doing a lot of ballistic gel tests, and he's been doing it with all sorts of cartridges and bullets, and he does it at 50 yards. That's why I did it at 50 yards today, because I could make a ballpark comparison to what how the cartridges he's tested have done. And he's tested from the ELDX, the Terminal Ascent, ELDM bullets, all sorts of bullets. Most of the cartridges that he has tested, the wound cavity measuring up and down, it's roughly around 2 inches or less. A lot of the times it's less, but it is smaller cartridges. Take that for what it's worth. So 2.5, pretty darn good. And then as we look up from the top, it is 3 inches wide. And then the wound cavity, the temporary wound cavity, goes 13 inches long. All in all, pretty darn good performance. And this is gonna hammer any animal you shoot. Hey guys, I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down below in the comments how the Accubond performed. Did you think it did good, bad, or meh? Also, now that I have ballistics gel, I can reheat this up. We can do all sorts of tests. So let me know what cartridge, what bullet you want to see next.